The pistol brace ban from the ATF. What is it? What does it mean? How does it directly impact gun owners here in Wyoming? And what can we do to deal with this at the state level right here in Cheyenne? You guys have questions. We've got some answers. Hey guys, Aaron Dorr here with Wyoming Gun Owners. A lot of you guys have been asking us, what's the latest on this pistol brace ban coming out of the ATF and the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. You're asking us, what is this ban actually about? What does it cover? When does it take effect? Some of you are asking, what is a pistol brace? And you're all asking, what can we do to protect gun owners and gun rights here in Wyoming in response to this? So guys, a lot of questions, and we're going to answer all those in this video. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to like this video, and we don't like having to produce it. We have, of course, an out-of-control president. We all know that. But we also have a lot of actors on the ground here in Cheyenne who intentionally have been sabotaging WYGO's solution to these problems via last year's Second Amendment Preservation Act fight in the legislature. So we're going to name a lot of names here and give you guys the details on what we can and can't do to protect ourselves here in Wyoming. When we're done, guys, hit the links, share the videos, get involved in this fight, because there's a lot more of this fighting coming from the White House. So number one, what the heck is going on? January 13, the ATF came out with a new regulation, a new rule, and said that all pistol braces must be registered with the Department of Justice. Now, we're not talking about a standard 4473 form here. The Department of Justice, Uncle Joe Biden, is trying to say that a pistol brace is now considered the same level of severity as a machine gun. So just like you can own a machine gun right now, if you have an NFA tax stamp, you'll be required to have an NFA tax stamp to own a pistol brace. So your options are, number one, get rid of your pistol brace. Number two, submit to the ATF and get a NFA tax stamp to own it. Or number three, the way it sounds, you can possess it, but apparently just not attached to your firearm. Stupidity. So those are your options. And the way we got here was that last year, Joe Biden was in a typical rage because the guy can't find the damn ice cream machine, and he couldn't pass an assault weapons ban in Washington, D.C. And so to get back at gun owners out of spite, out of hatred, and to please Michael Bloomberg and the radical left who helped to elect him, he grabbed his tyranny pen out of his pocket, and he signed an executive order that outlaws pistol braces unless they are NFA Act registered. That's what the act did. And so since that time, the ATF spent several months developing this final rule. They had a public comment section. Many of you commented on that. Of course, the ATF doesn't give a heck what any of us think. They're complete tyrants run amok. And so, yes, on the 13th, this new order was finalized, and the effective date will be 4 months, 120 days from January 13. So smack dab in the middle of May, the ATF will begin to enforce these across Wyoming and across the rest of the country. So the reality behind this is very simple. For the DOJ and the radical left, they hate you, they hate me, they hate gun owners in general. And this order does three things to them. Number one, they can tax more and more gun owners if we comply with this crap. Number two, they're going to register every single American who applies for an NFA permit now to own their pistol brace. And number three, if we don't do those things, number three, there we go, you're a felon. I'm a felon. We're all felons. And that's the whole point. They are weaponizing the entire system against gun owners through executive orders that never received a vote in the House, never received a vote in the Senate, never had a public hearing, never had public testimony. This is tyranny via executive fiat with the ATF right there to enforce all of this for the radical left and for Joe Biden. This is the kind of government that our founding fathers warned us about, folks. This is what we're facing right now. The Congressional Budget Office themselves estimates that 10 to 40 million of these pistol braces are already in circulation. 10 to 40 million. So millions and millions, tens of millions of Americans own these items. And they know that at the ATF. They don't care. Their goal is to make you and me into a felon. So that's what this thing does, and that's when it takes effect. Many of you are asking us kind of a more basic question. What's a pistol brace? What is this? Well, this is a pistol brace. This is an AR-15 pistol brace. This mounts on the back of an AR-15 pistol, and it's designed to make the item more controllable. Originally, these pistol braces were designed for disabled veterans who didn't have the upper body strength, or maybe they were missing a limb from military service and they could not effectively hold or handle a full-size AR-15 rifle. And so the AR-15 pistol is a solution for that problem, and with the pistol brace attached to it, it's much more controllable. And we should all be fans of having firearms that are more controllable. That's what this thing does. Of course, the left has demonized this, and that's why this is now an illegal item here in America. So this is an AR-15 pistol brace. Now, you may be asking yourself, it looks pretty similar to an AR-15 buttstock. You'd be right. This is an AR-15 buttstock. This you can buy right now on any number of websites. It's 100% legal. Probably costs you $65. Amazon.com, baby, or on any other website, and come right to your door. This, totally legal. 100% legal. No problem. This, now you're a felon. You see the insanity of this? Totally capricious, totally arbitrary. They simply want to demonize gun owners and terrorize us with the Department of Justice and the ATF. Pure and simple, that's what this is. Now, the question is, what do we do about it? And here's where this is going to get progressively nasty. And it's not that we're the ones being nasty. The politicians in Cheyenne are the ones who are being nasty and acting in bad faith. Because again, this was not a surprise to WYGO. Probably wasn't a surprise to you. We have a crazy man in the White House. He can't pass gun control, at least not much of it right now in Congress. He didn't get much done for the last 2 years. And so his main tool right now is the pen and executive orders. We knew that. You knew that. We all knew that. So WYGO, as you guys know, ran the Second Amendment Preservation Act last year, which, had it passed in the way we had authored it, would have required Wyoming cops to only enforce Wyoming gun laws. So federal legislation, federal executive orders like this, and any other federal bureaucratic processes that would mandate gun control would not be able to be enforced here in Wyoming. That's what the bill did. And as you guys probably remember from last session, this is not a theory. Missouri passed this identical legislation in 2021. We ripped the language directly from the main bill sponsors who we know in Missouri. That's what our bill here would do here last session. Now, as you guys know, Wyoming passed what they called SAPA legislation last year. But if you remember that fight, you remember the bad news. And that is that what we passed was a toothless old nag. What Wyoming has right now is a feel-good. Because specifically, the politicians in Cheyenne took some parts of our bill and they ran a tremendous amount of harmful amendments on these things. And what they did was remove the enforcement capability out of the bill. So in Missouri right now, to use that as an example, 6.3 million Missourians go to bed every night, snug as a bug, knowing that their local law enforcement cannot be used by Joe Biden to enforce this pistol brace ban. They know that their sheriff, their city cops, their troopers are not going to knock on their door in the middle of the night coming to round up their pistol braces. They know that because they can't do it according to state law. And if they do, Missouri has civil penalties that allow the individual gun owner, you, me, to sue that department in civil court. So you want to guess how many federal laws on gun issues have been enforced in Missouri in the last year and a half? Yeah, nothing. Zero. Because there's teeth built into that bill. You want to guess how many times a federal task force has been formed in Missouri in the last year and a half to enforce federal gun control? Zero. Not so for us. Not so. Here's the reason why. Representative Mark Jennings, he's a pastor. He likes to come across like a Christian man, likes to tell you that he's just the nicest guy. He intentionally and knowingly ran a parallel version of SAPA, and they removed the civil penalty section. So while on paper, local cops may only enforce local laws here in Wyoming, the reality is that enforcement is gone. And so there is no follow through for gun owners if these rights are violated here in Wyoming. This is Mark Jennings, and he's the guy that did that with full knowledge of what he was doing in the House. Shame on you, Mark. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. It got worse because over in the Senate, many people know Senator Larry Hicks. He runs the show now here in the Wyoming State Senate. Larry Hicks was the sponsor in that chamber, and Larry also played a direct role in sabotaging SAPA because what he did was run language that gave a complete carve out for a federal task force. Let me break it down a different way. So in Missouri, if they violate SAPA, civil penalties that you can invoke, no task forces. Here in Wyoming, no civil penalties. You have no recourse whatsoever. And Larry Hicks made sure that if the ATF wants to come out to Wyoming, they are more than welcome. And they can grab some troopers and some of our deputies and some of our city cops over here, get all together in a task force, and they specifically deliberately carved out an exception for these ATF-led task forces to come into Wyoming and confiscate your guns, your pistol braces in this case. Again, Larry, shame on you. But guys, it gets worse, and you need to know this. Again, remember the context. This was a year ago. WYGO knew this was going to happen. We knew that Joe Biden was working on executive orders. Our federal team in D.C. was hearing about this on Capitol Hill. Heck, Joe Biden was talking about it publicly in the Rose Garden every chance he had. We knew this was going to happen, and we ran this best language possible to secure these freedoms. And then comes along a new lobbyist for Gun Owners of America, Mark Jones. Now, Mark Jones is about 14 seconds old in the fight for gun rights. Up until about a year ago, Mark Jones measured reptile reproductive products in North Carolina. Guy's not from around here. The guy has no experience in the fight for gun rights. He parachutes into Cheyenne, and he immediately gets a lot of love from all the politicians in the state capitol. And so he and Gun Owners of America jumped on the bandwagon to pass this sabotaged version of SAPA. And at the time, their emails made it very clear, this version we can pass. Well, that's stupid. Everyone knows how this game works here in Cheyenne. It would have been easy to pass watered down stand your ground law the first day of session in 2018, but WYGO members and our entire lobby team fought like dogs to the last day to pass, at that time, the nation's best stand your ground law. It would have been easy to pass a watered down constitutional carry law way back in the day, but we held fast and passed a fantastic version of constitutional carry. Passing an easy bill means you didn't accomplish anything. It's hard passing tough legislation. It's hard passing detailed bills because guess what? Politicians in Cheyenne, the rhinos, they like to oppose us. But GOA knew this, and their lobbyist, Mark Jones, stabbed us and you in the back when they ran this through. This is Mark Jones. Again, remember, this is the face of a guy who was measuring reproductive organs on wildlife up until about a year ago when he parachutes into the state to then lead the quote-unquote lead the fight for gun rights. What did he actually do, though? Well, like I said, first he greenlit this horrible legislation, but then look who he's standing around. Look who he's standing around. On the far right, you've got Mark Jennings. Mark Jennings is this rhino turd who knew he was going to get hit in the elections if he didn't have something to show for the fight for gun rights. So Mark Jennings is right there. So when WYGO members are putting pressure on Mark Jennings, GOA's lobbyist is right there to cover his back. But look around. On the far left, Larry Hicks, one of the definition of the rhino swamp here in Cheyenne. Larry was scared. There was a primary coming. He knew he was going to get hit if they didn't do something to pass gun bills in 2021. And so, of course, they all jump right into bed together to side up together to help run this sham bill into law. Guys, it doesn't protect you, but it protected their careers. But wait, there's more. Who else do we have here? Well, you've got a whole bunch of members of Wyoming's law enforcement. Now, I want to be clear on this. frontline officers in Wyoming, they desperately wanted our SAPA law to pass because they love freedom. They love the Second Amendment. But when it comes to department heads who are political appointees for police departments, or the state troopers, who, of course, their commandant is a political figure, and unfortunately, for a decent number of our sheriffs, they did not want to lose any of their power. And folks, they didn't want to lose any of their money. And so they loudly opposed our version of SAPA because they knew that was real teeth. But who do you see here? Well, it's a whole bunch of the law enforcement crowd, because they knew that this legislation would do nothing to interfere with their ability to work with the ATF. A very incestuous cast of characters. None of them did this by mistake. This was done on purpose. So again, right now, if you're a gun owner in Missouri, none of those local law enforcement can come after you. And you feel very comfortable because you know Joe Biden lacks some manpower to send in plane loads of ATF into Missouri. But for all of us here in Wyoming, we don't have that protection. Sure, we've got SAPA law on the books. Of course, Governor Gordon wanted to sign that to get a political win. He did so. So we have SAPA on the books. But what happens if, I don't know, Cheyenne PD says, screw you, we're going to enforce it? What can you do? Nothing. Because this guy here, Mark Jennings, Larry Hicks, GOA's lobbyists, these guys conspire together to strip out the teeth out of this bill. Shame on all of them. Shame on all of them. And again, not only do you have no direct recourse, they specifically empowered law enforcement to join up, to jump into the bed with Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and the ATF and be a part of these federal joint task forces. So all of the sheriffs that you see behind you here, they know that being a party to these task forces is very lucrative. WYGO's SAPA law would never have allowed for that. But what these guys did last year, it did. And again, there's a lot of money in the line here. I guess I didn't mention that very much. Maybe you're curious. You should Google this. You should Google the Federal Equitable Sharing Program. Federal Equitable Sharing Program. It's a Department of Justice program. The Institute for Justice tracks this. You should go look it up right there. And what you're going to find out is that when the feds come into the states and they establish these task forces, 80% of the money that they confiscate, whether direct cash confiscations or in this case, they confiscate firearms and ammo and they sell them, 80% of those dollars goes back to your sheriff, goes back to your police chief, goes back to the state patrol. And folks, we're talking about millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. None of that would have been permissible under actual SAPA law. All of that is permissible now under the law that was passed last year. So again, shame on Mark Jennings, shame on Larry Hicks, shame on the reptile reproductive organ measuring Mark Jones. You're a fool. You had no idea what you were doing. You had no idea what you stepped into. Actually, you did. You're not from here. You don't have any long-term care what happens here. And you were so dumb that you actually thought they passed that bill because of your work. What they did instead, you twit, was they passed it because WYGO members have been decapitating the careers of rhinos every 2 years for a hell of a long time. And in 2020, everyone knows what we did. And our members destroyed the careers of tons of incumbent senators and state reps. And all the rest of the folks who were up for election in 2022, they knew if they did not pass a gun bill, that WYGO would be there to come after them again. So that's why they rushed through a weakened, watered-down version of SAPA. Every person who actually knows politics here in the state knows that's what happened. Unfortunately, I think you've got too much reptile reproductive organs on your mind, my man. You have no idea what you're actually doing when it comes to politics. So, folks, that's what I meant when I said it's going to be a bad video. Because the ultimate reality right now is there are no tangible protections for you and I. Oh, sure, you're going to hear from the politicians. The county attorneys, county prosecutors can bring criminal charges against law enforcement if they enforce it. But we all know that will never happen. That's the whole point. That's why the cops were all here. That's why law enforcement was here. Do you think they would be there if they thought there was a viable chance that they could be criminally charged by their county attorney? Of course not. But they're there because they know this will never happen. The idea politically that a county attorney, county prosecutor is going to sue the county sheriff and charge him criminally, it's preposterous. It will never happen. And so that is why these guys were all there. It was the biggest con job pulled on gun owners in a very long time here in Wyoming. And now, again, it leaves us in a spot where there is not an immediate recourse that we have. WYGO's national affiliate, the American Firearms Association, is going to be suing the Department of Justice in federal court in some capacity. There may be relief that we can give to WYGO members in that way, but that's a long time down the road. It's going to take some time. Federal lawsuits always do. It could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years. And we might not win that case. But again, plan A was always SAPA, and these guys knowingly and intentionally sabotaged it, guys. Now you have the story. Do me a favor, share the video far and wide. Make sure to reach out to your state rep, your state senator, and say, what the hell did you guys do? Why'd you do this? You knew this was going to happen. You gave us no protection. Remember that, guys, the next time you hear from your pro-gun Republicans at a county GOP Republican Party forum. Guys, join the fight today. Go to joinwygo.com. Share our video. And, guys, much more coming this session on our bill to ban red flag laws. For now, that's all we have time for. Take care and stay free.